Can you believe that a simple typo in an address from way back over 200 years ago actually created a legal rule that affects how we all make deals today? I know, it sounds like a bit of a stretch, but that's exactly what happened in this wild case involving a bunch of wool, a letter that got lost in the mail, and of course, a massive legal showdown.
Okay, so let's just jump right into the big question here. Think about it for a sec. You get an offer in an email, you love it, and you fire back a reply saying, "Yes, I'm in." Is that deal locked in the second you hit send? Or does it only become a real binding contract when the other person actually sees your message? This exact problem is at the heart of this entire story.
So to really get how we ended up with the answer, we've got to hop in a time machine. Let's set the stage for what turned out to be a surprisingly dramatic deal for a bunch of wool.
Okay, picture this. We're in England. The year is 1818. The Industrial Revolution is firing on all cylinders, and the textile industry is just exploding. Wool is basically the new gold, and the mills are desperate to get a constant supply. Now, in a world with no phones, no email, making deals quickly and reliably through the post was absolutely everything.
So let's meet the main characters in our little drama. On one side, you've got Lindsell and Company. They're wool dealers, and they have a product they need to sell. On the other side, we have Adams and Company, who are manufacturers, and they badly need that wool to keep their business running. Our story kicks off when Lindsell mails an offer to Adams to sell them a huge shipment. Sounds simple enough, right?
Well, you probably guessed it wasn't that simple. Because this is the exact moment where one tiny little mistake throws the whole deal into complete chaos. And here it is, the big blunder. When Lindsell mailed out their offer, they messed up the address. They sent it to Bromsgrove in Leicestershire instead of where it was supposed to go, Bromsgrove in Worcestershire. Now this seems like a small mistake, but it meant that the letter, which should have arrived in a day or two, got seriously delayed.
And that delay is what caused all the trouble. So follow this timeline. On September 2nd, the offer goes in the mail. But because of the wrong address, it doesn't even get to Adams until September 5th. Adams is ecstatic, they immediately write back saying yes, and they post their acceptance that very same evening. But back at Lindsell's office, the days are ticking by. They hear nothing. So on September 8th, they figure Adams isn't interested, and they sell the wool to somebody else. Then, of course, the very next day, September 9th, Adams' acceptance letter finally shows up. Whoops.
So, you can see the massive problem here. You've got two different companies who both think they have a right to the exact same pile of wool. This wasn't just an awkward situation. It was a huge legal mess.
If you looked at it from Adams' point of view, it was a done deal. They got an offer, they said yes right away, so they had a contract. Simple. But if you were Lindsell, you'd be thinking, hey, we waited and waited for a reply that never came. We can't just sit around forever. They had a business to run, so they sold it. Both of them, in their own minds, were totally in the right.
And this brings us right back to that core question. Was the deal made on September 5th, the moment Adams dropped their acceptance letter into the mail, or was it only sealed when Lindsell actually received it, which was obviously way too late? Literally everything depended on the answer.
And that answer came from the court. It was a groundbreaking decision that would end up setting a powerful legal precedent that we still use today.
The case goes to court. You can imagine the tension. Who do you think the judges ended up siding with? In the end, the court sided with Adams. They ruled that yes, a binding contract had been formed, even though Lindsell had already gone and sold the wool to someone else. But the real question is, why?
It's because the court created what we now know as the postal rule. And this rule is crystal clear. A deal is officially made the moment the acceptance is sent, the second that letter is dropped into the mailbox. It doesn't matter when it gets there, or even if it gets there at all. The act of sending is what counts.
Now, the court's logic here was actually pretty brilliant. It was all about creating certainty. They figured that the person saying yes to an offer needs to know right then and there that the deal is done. I mean, if you had to wait for the other person to confirm they got your yes, business would just grind to a halt. And plus, and this is a huge point, it was Lindsell who chose to use the mail in the first place. By doing that, they were the ones who had to accept the risks that come with it, like, delays and lost letters.
Okay, so a cool story from 1818. But what in the world does a rule about snail mail have to do with us today, in our world of instant messages and emails? Well, it turns out a whole lot, actually. This is where it gets really interesting for our modern world.
You can see how this basic idea has had to evolve. For good old-fashioned mail, the postal rule is still in play. The deal is done when you send your acceptance. But for something instant, like a phone call, the rule is different.
The deal is made when the other person actually hears and understands you. And for email, most places have adopted what's called a receipt rule. That means acceptance is effective the moment the email hits the other person's inbox, whether they've read it yet or not.
So even though the technology is completely changed, that fundamental question that Adams v. Lindsell answered is still the foundation of contract law. It forced everyone to define that exact, precise moment a deal is officially made, a concept that's just absolutely vital in our super fast-paced digital world.
And that kind of leaves us with one last really fascinating question to chew on. Today, our technology gives us so much more information, right? We have read receipts, we have seen notifications. In a world like that, is a legal framework that was built for the random, uncertain world of 19th century mail still the best way to figure out when yes really means yes? Definitely something to think about.